Welcome to USFCR Academy Live. We created this program with you in mind, so you can have a place to get all your answers in one spot from our subject matter experts. Call in and ask questions.
Hi, this is Carla with HCGS outside the phone in.
Hey, Carla.
Ask us about different solicitations, about the industry.
Doesn't matter if you've been in for a day, a week, lifetime, doesn't matter.
No matter what the question is, we want to be able to answer it.
The greatest part is there's no prerequisite for getting on the Academy Live.
When you call in, you'll also get a chance to network with other contractors out there and showcase your capabilities.
We started talking and Anna put us together and we thought, hey, we could put this together and look at it. And then the more I looked into it, it seemed like, well, that really eliminates a lot of my competition for like total small business.
This venue where you have different companies, different company owners coming together, all with the purpose of pursuing federal government contracts. It works very well together.
Plus, when you win, you can showcase your wins, and we'll be happy to showcase you in USFCR fashion.
While I was on this broadcast with you guys, I just got my 6th contract.
What? Really?
Yep.
Wait, you just went to 0 to 6? Jesse, why have we not talked? Congratulations, look at this. Balloons! Huzzah!
Well, of course we have some killer content, but really, this program is designed for you.
For you. For you.
For you, the government contractor.
So come on in, join us. We'll see you on the Academy Live. Welcome to the best of USFCR's Academy Live. Thank you guys so much for attending every single week and calling in and asking such great questions. We can't do any of this without viewers like you, so thank you. We love the questions so much that we decided to take all of your questions from May of 2019 to now, and we decided to put together this best of 3-part series. So these questions are from you. So you may hear your voice on here, and that's because you asked something really special that's going to help out other vendors in this group. So thank you guys so much, and we're excited to give you this content. So we're going to do 3 weeks of Best of USFCR Academy Live. This video this week, we're going to be going through simple questions that you may have been afraid to ask. These questions range from registrations to set-asides to our responsibility as your registration firm to your responsibility as a new federal vendor. And all of these questions, the reason that we put them together is because you can use them to help your networking skills. And then using the tools in APP to find those opportunities and get the bidding process started, which is what it's all about. So as I mentioned, this is the best of USFCR Academy Live 3-part series. So today is not the only live best of video that we're doing. We have another one that's going to premiere next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now the 3rd best of video is going to premiere the following Monday, again at 2 p.m. Eastern. To be sure that you don't miss any of these exciting best of episodes, be sure to follow us on Facebook. And if you're watching and tuning in via YouTube, be sure to click the bell icon to set your reminders for notifications. So we are live right now in the comments, so ask any questions you have in the comments and we'll be happy to respond. But sit back, get a pen and paper, and take lots of notes so that you can become an ace in the federal space. Now, I promised you we were going to talk about SAM compliance. So one of the ways that we talk about SAM compliance here, as you know, SAM is changing into SAM Beta. And one of the things with SAM Beta is that there's going to be an adjustment of the moving of vendors from the original SAM site to the new and improved SAM site. And during transition, things can get a little dicey. But not to worry, because you guys are here at USFCR. So you never have to worry about missing out on these transitions, not having a compliant SAM, because our team is going to check it for you. And if you want to check on your vendors registrations and make sure that they've been verified, you can do that in the Advanced Procurement Portal. So on APP, we have a newer section, if any of you have noticed, called Vendor Management. So you can click on the Vendor Management tab and actually find vendors who have been verified by USFCR. So as you can see, we do have an example here that we used a couple weeks ago with the Gill Group because they are one of our clients, so they show up as verified. But let's say you wanted to work with a vendor and you weren't sure if their registration was done properly and that they've actually been vetted. And so to make sure that they've been vetted, what you'll want to do is type in the client's DUNS number in the Verify New Vendor section. So you just click on Verify New Vendor in the right-hand corner, and then you'll type in the DUNS number. And from there, the system's going to let you know if they've been verified by USFCR or if they did their own SAM. Now, if they did their own SAM, it doesn't mean that they did it incorrectly. But for peace of mind, it's probably a good idea just to see if they've been verified by us. And if not, have them call in and, become a client. Why not? It's a good idea. So again, vendor management is a great tool that you can use to help start to vet some of your subcontractors and potential partners in federal contracting. All right.
So we just started with the company maybe a week, 10 days ago.
Okay.
And, us and you are working out some of the things that we agreed on, the website, some registrations. We're just trying to figure out what's the next step. I mean, should we be in the APP? What should we do to get moving now?
Okay, awesome. That's a really good question. And John, that's honestly one of the most popular questions that we either get on this live show or just randomly from people that get started, because you get all excited about doing federal contracts. You get signed up, you get registered, and then you go, okay, now what do I do? So, yeah, and it's rightfully so. There's so much information out there, and that's what USFCR, what we're really trying to do is simplify everything, because there's so much information and directions that you can take it. So first thing I would always suggest is if you haven't got logged into APP, definitely get logged into there. So the Advanced Procurement Portal is a great system and tool for you to utilize to not only find contracts, but also give you some additional learning material outside of the live show. Now, when you're first starting out, we want you to go to the Learning Center, which is that last section on the left. And when you click on that, you'll then click on Contract Learning. So the Contract Learning section, this is going to give you insight into different aspects of federal contracting. So you're going to get your overview on how to write a bid, how to look for, bids and solicitations, how to communicate with the agents, and we have a new vendor orientation that you can watch that's going to give you an overview of this whole system in more detail that I run. It's about 16 minutes or so, and it's going to break down every section so you know what they are, and I'll make sure you get that as well. But through this system, it's tracked your progress. So as you're doing the different lessons, you can just jump into the different lessons. So if we go to lesson 1, preparing for a bid, so we'll scroll down, we'll hit start lesson. This is what yours will look like. And then you'll see we have all these different subsections here with check marks. So as you finish a section, you just click on the check mark, and then it's going to say, do you want to mark it as completed? If you say yes, it'll mark it and then it'll show it on the progress bar. If you don't, then, well, you can just leave it as it is. But I would recommend going through and hitting every one of these subsections and making a running list of questions. You're going to have probably a lot of questions throughout your contracting journey, and whatever questions you have, bring them back to next week's Academy Live. And then just ask me, and I'll have no problem just breaking down what questions you have or what things you may have run into, or maybe you can't find something for your company. Just bring them to the Academy and we'll be happy to break it down.
Sounds great. Appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, welcome to the Academy Live. Welcome to USFCR, and I look forward to having you every week. Okie dokie. So Dakota has a question in the chat. She wants to know, what are the exact requirements to register as a small business, as well as a woman-owned small business and any of the other set-asides? So, really good question. The number one thing that you need to do to register as a small business is you have to be registered in the System for Award Management, SAM, which, Dakota, if you're one of our clients, I guarantee you we're already on it. So the SAM registration is really the step 1 of that entire process. Step 2 is is part of step 1, and that is selecting the correct NAICS code. So the NAICS codes are the North American Industry Classification System codes, and basically these codes help to describe your product and service. And each one of these codes are linked to a different size standard that the SBA has established, and that size standard dictates if you're considered small business or considered large business. Now, if you're wondering, okay, how do I do this? What are the links? It's really easy because we put this all in APP for you. So if we go to APP really quick, I can show you here. So in APP, we have a learning center. So Dakota, if you haven't gotten logged in yet, please let us know. We can always check with your acquisition specialist after and send over your APP login. But you'll click the learning center and then contract learning. Now, when you're in here, we have a section where you can, number 1, do some learning. So we have 6 different lessons, great information. But in lesson 6, we have a link on the proper registration and beyond, and it'll take you out to the Census Bureau's website for the NAICS codes. So if you click on the Census Bureau link, it takes you right here, North American Industry Classification System codes. And what you'll do is you would type in a keyword for your service in the top search bar for the 2017. So we'll use janitorial. It's already populated, so we'll use that as an example. We click on the 2017 search because that's the most recent NAICS code classification system. They update the systems every 5 years. So once we do that, we're actually going to get a listing here of all of the different codes that are linked to some sort of janitorial service. So this goes for Dakota, whatever business you have, put in your keyword, and then you'll be able to get your code. Now let's say if we click on the code for 561720. Cool. So here it tells you that that code literally stands for janitorial services. It gives you illustrative examples of what that means. If I was a janitorial company, I'd already know, great, this is the code that I want to choose. And then once I've chosen the code, I want to find out what the size standard is going to be. Now, the size standard table is put out by the SBA, and you can find this very simply by just going on Google and searching for SBA size standard table. Okay, you'll actually be able to pull up the documents, that second document there. All right, so on this document here, these are all of the size standards. So as you go through the document, we scroll down, they're going to be organized by the actual NAICS code. So we would scroll down to the one for 561720. There we go. So janitorial, here's your code. You would find it. You would then see what your size standard is. In this case, it's $18 million. And what that $18 million stands for is that is the average annual revenue for your company of a 3-year average. And it's in millions. So if your company has an annual revenue that's averaged out to be less than 18 million over the past 3 years, you're considered small business. And then you'd be able to put yourself as a small business on your registration. So that's kind of how that is determined. As far as the other set-asides, we have those qualifications in APP too. Yay! So if we go back to APP, in the different lessons, we have lesson 4, which is qualifying for set-asides. And then we actually give you guys a little bit of notes about each one of the set-asides, what some of the qualifications are. So as you can see, we talk about GSA. On the left, we talk about hub zone, 8A, veteran-owned, woman-owned. We put all the qualifications there under the different subsections. So hopefully that helps out, Dakota. So Dakota has a follow-up question that says, what if we are associated with another company that is not a small business? So Dakota, it really depends on what type of association you're talking about. For example, if you are a franchise business and your franchise is considered a large business, you could still be considered small as long as the parent company isn't doing all of the major decision-making, if it's not in a corporate standpoint. If it's more individually owned, then it's considered small. But you have to check with just the agreement. Same thing as if, let's say, you have a parent company, but they are not involved in the daily procedures and not tied to all of your finances and resources, then you'd be still considered small. So that's a conversation we'd want to have probably with the case manager who is handling your registration. So you will end up getting an email from your case manager who is going to work on your SAM registration here. Just ask them a little bit about how your business is set up, if you would still be considered small business, and they'll talk you through that. And as long as you considered small business in that respect, we can then talk about some of the set-asides.
Hello, this is Abdul with Lucent Freight.
Hi, Abdul. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I am doing wonderful. I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. As you know, we have a trucking company called Lucent Freight Services.
Mm-hmm.
We are 8A certified for more than 2 years, and we were not able to get any contract.
Mm-hmm.
You have given us very valuable advice last time when we talked.
Okay.
And we talked to our 8A SBA representative, and they also advised that we could add more NIC codes to our transportation certification, and that way we can, as you mentioned before, we can bid for some product, let's say water, bottled water, or anything in that type, any supplies that the government need, and then use our trucks to haul.
Yes, perfect.
So I need some advice to what NIC codes should I add to my 8A certifications. I have no idea what product that the government buys the most in bulk, where I would need to transport. So that's my question.
Okay, good question. I'm glad the SBA gave you the same advice, because it really does make sense. You have the trucks, you have the capability to distribute items in bulk. It's just a matter of finding out what they want. So what I would suggest, Abdul, is off the top of my head, I can't think of all the NAICS codes. I would love to say that I've memorized them all, but there's so many of them. But what I would suggest is if you go on the advanced procurement portal and you start searching in the find opportunities section and you start typing in some solicitations, you're going to be able to find what's been going out there. For example, if I type in, let me think of a good one. Department of Homeland Security. They purchase a lot of items in bulk for FEMA and disaster relief, so that's an example of someone you might be able to find water bottles from. So if I type in Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security in the agency finder, and then in the keyword I type in, let's say, water. What I can do is then apply filters and then see what solicitations match, water bottles. And if I find any that match, I can see what NAICS code the government has actually listed it under. So it's going to take a little bit of, trial and error to find the codes. They're probably going to be distribution codes. It looks like, David, you finding some?
Looking for water bottles. There it is.
Okay, there we go. 312112. It's for bottled water manufacturing.
Okay.
So there's an example of a code that you could add as a secondary. You don't want to change your primary. Your primary codes should still have to do with trucking, because you're identifying to them that you have the capability of working with bottled water manufacturing and distributing.
Right.
But you don't want to put that as your primary, because then they're going to think you're a manufacturing company when you're a trucking company. So,
right.
Yeah, so you want to add those to your secondary codes. But like we just did with David, try putting in some keywords. Homeland Security is a good one for bulk items. Department of Education does a lot of bulk items for the school systems. Department of Interior does a lot of office supplies. So through the different agencies, you can just try searching an agency and a supply and seeing what codes they use, and then set up your alerts that way, and that should help you to hone in on some supply contracts. Now, briefly, I'll just mention that there are both primary and secondary NAICS codes. Okay, so what is the difference? Your primary NAICS code is what is used in order to describe your primary business objective. So let's say you're a janitorial company, but you also have the capability of doing landscaping or maybe some paving. Maybe you do a little bit of gardening on the side, but it's mostly just big landscaping projects or big janitorial projects. So janitorial would be your primary NAICS code, and maybe something like landscaping or paving would be some of the secondary codes. So there are additional products and services you have, but it's not your main bread and butter. What's awesome about the primary code is that you can only have one, and that is used to determine your company's size standard. So a size standard is set by the SBA in order to categorize if your business is considered small business or large business. So if you're considered to be small business, then you would look at your primary NAICS code, look at the SBA's size standard table in order to determine, are you large or are you small? If you're small, you can qualify for set-asides. And then you can give us a call and we'll go through those qualifications with you. If you don't qualify for set-asides, that's fine. You can still obviously register in SAM and have a great opportunity to bid on some federal work. And with us doing the SAM, of course, you got a great case manager that can make all those changes. So if you decide down the road that you want to add an additional service to your capabilities, just contact your case manager and they'd be happy to add that NAICS code to your SAM registration. Now, in addition to your NAICS codes, there also are, of course, ways that you have to find them. Okay, you have to obviously identify what are they going to be. Maybe you have a company, you haven't picked those codes yet. Well, not only can your case manager help you find the codes, but we're going to give you a link to be able to find the codes yourself. So most of you at this point should have some sort of knowledge on the Advanced Procurement Portal. If you don't, let us know and we'll be happy to give you some training on it. But the Advanced Procurement Portal is the APP portal that we created for our clients in order to not only search for contracts, get some knowledge on contracts, but also search for vendors and so much more. So in APP, you can actually go to the Learning Center, and in the Learning Center, we have a section for the contract learning, and then you would click on Lesson 6. So you'd scroll down to Lesson 6 for proper registration and beyond, click Start Lesson, and then we have the link right there for NAICS codes. So if you're trying to find your code and you want to do some research, click on that link, read a little bit, and then you can click on the blue hyperlink for the Census Bureau. So that right there is a great resource. Besides just your NAICS code, you may want to help describe your business even further by adding a PSC code, also known as a product service code. A product service code is something that's used in addition to your NAICS code in order to further describe the niche of your business. So let's say you do something that's very specific. You might want to add a product and service code in order to specify what exactly that is. Because sometimes the NAICS codes are so broad and have way too many services compared to that tiny little product that you provide. So you can find product and service code listings also on APP by clicking on the product and service code section in that Learning Center again. PSC codes, there we go. And you can download the current list of product and service codes in the Excel document. Now, what's really cool about the Excel is that it's organized by industry. So at the bottom, there are little tabs such as transportation, travel and lodging, medical, office management. All these different sections here are going to help you to find codes that are related to your company. Now, what I find is also pretty interesting. So let's pick security and protection. It's a shorter list. All right, so in this list, you can see right here some examples of some product and service codes. So in this is the category for security and protection. What's interesting is you have codes for live animals, seeds, forage, cameras, which would potentially be confusing, but it's not, and I'm going to show you why. So product and service codes, again, are things that help to further describe your business. So let's say that you were in the security field. So if you're in the security field and you have, I'm going to go to the board for this one. And let's say you do security fences and monitoring. One might think that you want to use a fencing type of code. You might say, oh, well, I should just use a code that has to do with fencing. But if you're doing security fencing, there's a different way that you can go about this by using the product and service codes. So since your primary business is actually security monitoring, and then you're also building fences, you'd want to potentially pick the primary NAICS code for security systems, which is 561621. So that would be the primary code. But again, you're doing fences. So if I kept my NAICS code as just security systems, it might confuse a contracting officer because they'd say that I could put up cameras and everything, but it would never describe the fences aspect. So that is where a PSC code would come in. So remember that table that we just showed you, the Excel document? Let's pull that up one more time. So when we pull up the Excel document, if we go and scroll in a little bit to this number 18 on that list that says 5660. Now that 5660 is, guess what? For fences. So this product and service code just helps to describe fences, and it's in the security field. And how you could figure that out is the first 2 digits in that product and service code. So let's go back to the board real quick. So back at the board, you can see a correlation between security fences, or the security systems NAICS, and the product and service code. Okay, the first 2 digits are the same. This lets you know that they're related. So with the security systems NAICS code 561621, the group, which is security, is the same group as the fences code. So together, they make sense. Versus if you had actually just done a code, an NAICS code for fencing, which would actually be under the all specialty contractors code, it starts completely different. So that code is all specialty trade contractors is like 238990. And guess what? It's not in the same group. So these are not the same. So it wouldn't make sense for them to go together versus naming yourself as a security systems company who does fences helps to currently describe that you're a security fence company. Now, I'm just going to back up just a little bit because I want to make sure you guys heard me at the end here as I was showing the difference of the product and service codes to the NAICS codes. So the point that I was trying to make is that product and service codes are not required. You don't need to have product and service codes in your SAM registration in order for you to be compliant. But sometimes it just makes sense to add them. So in this example for security fences, again, if you had just listed the security systems code, it wouldn't let the government know that you do security fences. Versus if you added the product and service code of 5660 for fences, it supplements the NAICS code to further describe your business. And how you know that they're a good fit is you look at the group, which is the first 2 numbers of the NAICS code and the product and service code. So guys, the point I'm just trying to make, they're not required, but they're additional, and just have your NAICS codes available because it's going to help you not only to describe your business for your capabilities, but also help you to find contracts because you can search using your NAICS codes. That's right, you can search. So you can use the Advanced Procurement Portal, which I know will not fail on us because we made it and it's awesome. If we go to APP, thanks. We didn't make any of the other websites that are crashing today. So if we go to APP and we click on Find Opportunities, we can find current active opportunities for your business based on the search filters using your NAICS code. So in there you can either type in the full code, so we'll type in the 561621, or if you had just typed in security systems, it would have populated automatically, and then you would have clicked it. But then we're going to click Apply Filters, and we're going to get a listing of all the most recent active federal contracts for that code. And by golly, there's a lot of them. Awesome. So that is how you can use your codes to be able to find contracts that suit your industry. So there is also a double-edged sword for using NAICS codes as your only search filter. Because, well, the government procurement officers or officers that are actually putting out these particular solicitations are human, just like you and me. And they have errors, just like our technology. Now, when you put in your NAICS code that you believe describes your primary business, the contracting officer may have a different code that they think has to do with your company. Like, this is a great example. If the government was looking for a security fence, they could potentially put it under security systems, or they could put it under all specialty trade contractors, which is a totally different code. And so you would actually end up missing out on that opportunity if you don't know secondary codes. But guess what? There's a better way to fix that, using the keyword section. So in APP, there are also keywords that you can populate and add to your search filters. So if you didn't put in, let's say, the NAICS code for security systems, and instead you typed in security fences in the keyword, not in the NAICS codes, we're gonna put it in the keyword section. All right, and then we're gonna hit apply filters. Now what that's gonna do is search for contracts for security fences. Now, it's searching for both the word security and fences. So it's gonna search for both of them. But guess what? That's a way that you can kind of see contracts that may not fall under the one NAICS code that you think. So if we click on, let's just click on some of them to open them up for the brief view. So guess what? That first one, it's under landscaping. What's the next one under? Not provided. Great. Next one, not provided. See, sometimes they don't even provide them. Right. So this is a really great example. That one's under apparel. Click the security gate project one. The next one under, keep going, one more. This one. See, that one's under site preparation contractors, but literally the title of it is security gate entrance project. So there are many different NAICS codes, and sometimes yours won't be the way that the government is actually describing the solicitation. So having not only a listing of your primary NAICS codes, secondary NAICS codes, but also keywords are going to help you to find the right searches. I hope you're listening and getting some great information. Use the hashtag to share with other federal contractors or small businesses that you think could benefit from this information. The fun thing is I have to figure out how to transition it smoothly.
4, 3, 2.
I wanted to know if state certification for woman-owned small business and city certification would make a difference to any federal.
It does not. That's a really great question that you asked, actually, because federal certification works for both state and federal versus state certification won't work for federal, but it'll work for state and local. So that's a really great question. So each state will have their own woman-owned small business certification process, but it won't count for the federal government versus if you do the federal one, it'll count for all the states as well. And
right, we are certified in the federal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the state, we have a certification number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's
wouldn't make a difference.
It's probably because the federal, they don't issue you a paper certificate. I don't know if that's kind of the thing you've been finding. So with the federal certification, it's just that they put you in the repository and then they, give you the SAM registration designation, but they're not going to issue you an actual paper certificate. Versus the state, they're going to give you a certification number, and they sometimes even issue you a paper certificate to put on the wall. So that's kind of the difference there. As long as you are registered federal and it's on your SAM registration and you're in the repository, you're good to go. Even if you don't get a cert number.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Esther. Thanks for calling in. Esther, I'm glad you even brought that up because people do ask all the time, why haven't I gotten a paper certificate in the mail? Well, it's because that's not what the federal government does. They just do basically a self-certification. And so you're certified, and the government knows that they're not going to ask you for paper certification because they know there isn't one for women-owned small business, versus HubZone or 8A. Those have actual certifications attached to it that give you a number and a paper and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's awesome.
So we do have a question. We're registered as service disabled on VetBiz, but do we also have to register as veteran-owned? It sounds silly, but we don't show up in the veteran-owned search.
Okay, so you registered service disabled veteran-owned small business. Did you do a certification, or did you just get that marked over in SAM?
No, I think we got the letter that said we can use the symbol and all that stuff.
Okay, so
and we show up in the search, right? Just not under veteran, only under service disabled.
That's fine then. Okay, as long as you show up in the search, that's fine. So that means you did everything correct. So you're going to be either listed on VetBiz as either a veteran-owned small business or a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. It's one or the other, because it's basically the exact same registration. It's just the only difference is if you're able to provide, that letter to show that you have over 0% disability due to service. That's what gets you that service-disabled veteran-owned status versus just a regular VOSB. So that's really the only difference. You guys are fine. If you're listed in VetBiz, they're going to be able to find you, and you're going to qualify for those set-asides.
Okay, great. That's great information.
Perfect.
My next question is, and I should know this, but shame on me for not.
It's okay.
When it comes to subcontracting, does your subcontractor need to be registered in SAM already, or how does all that work?
Great question. So as far as a subcontractor needing to be registered, as of right now, there isn't any federal regulation that a subcontractor needs to be registered in SAM. However, we're moving towards that. I would be pretty not surprised if they put that in a regulation very soon, because certain agencies have been requesting that subcontractors are registered, because once you're registered in SAM as a subcontractor, you actually gain past performance. And if you're not registered, there's no record that you've had past performance, because the electronic reporting subcontracting, the ERS, the system right there, that's what keeps track of any subcontractor past performance. So if your subcontractor is registered, then you're getting past performance. If they're not, they're just, chucking a truck that's doing the work, but it's not going to be reflected anywhere in the government's eyes. So if they ever decided to become a prime, there would be no records. It's like a differentiator. Yeah, thanks, David. It's a really good differentiator. If you're a subcontractor that's registered in SAM, it's like, listen, I'm serious about this. Like, I want past performance.
It's probably more likely you'll word a contract that way anyway.
Yeah, exactly, because they're vetted. The government likes security, and if your subcontractor is vetted through SAM and they've already gone through the IRS background check, they already know that they don't owe the government money, that their taxes are in order, that their business is registered properly, it's more likely they're going to trust that vendor to then go on their base and, if it's the Department of Defense, for example, and do the contract, versus someone that you hire again off Craigslist that comes in and hasn't had any background check. There's no verification except for you being like, hey, they gave me a cheap rate. So, yeah. All right, caller one.
Hi, Anna.
Oh, hi, Anna.
At Blue Line Distribution, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, I'm fine, thank you. So I wanted to reach out to you and call you today because I wanted to ask your thoughts on, I've locally, on the state of Illinois, reached out to all the SBA offices and asked for their point of contacts.
Okay.
To introduce myself, and so I've spent the past week doing that, and I've had a lot of luck with networking in that area.
Good.
So that's been a good thing, and I feel pretty good about that. However, I don't have all of my designations secure yet.
Okay.
Savannah's still working on a few of them. Do you still think that's a good idea to do that, even though I don't have all of my designations attached?
Sure.
As I would again.
Sure. When you say designations, is your SAM registration done, or are you just waiting on the woman-owned small business certification?
the woman-owned and the service veteran disabled. And there's 3 or 4 different designations.
Okay, so you can still begin the networking process. I don't think that that's a bad thing. The only thing you won't be able to do yet is if there's a contract that's currently out and it has that set aside attached, you can't bid on it until you have that set aside officially, gone through the certification process. So right now during networking, you can introduce yourself as a service-disabled woman-owned small business and tell them that you're in the process of submitting the paperwork and it should be cleared soon. So you can kind of start introducing your company that way. You just can't physically, bid yet in those designations. But definitely networking, put it out there, because it's as long as Savannah, hasn't recognized any issues or anything in that standpoint, you should be good to go.
Okay, that sounds great. And then also I've enrolled and paid for the event in Tennessee in December, the 8th through the 10th.
Nice.
Pricey, but I'm sure it will be worth it. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm just trying to see some of the, like you were going through at the very beginning, some of the big contracts that were awarded to some of these big vendors, and introducing them. I'd much rather subcontract than contract myself.
Yeah, perfect.
So I guess that's a simple question is that, tied into the first part, should I be reaching out to them as well?
Yeah, so if you're gonna be subcontracting, definitely start reaching out. Again, if it's someone that currently has a contract and you're looking to sub, you may not be able to, officially use that service disabled and woman owned until the certification's in. So that part's kind of like you're in a gray spot until that's moved forward. But by going to the event, I would still start making some connections. Some of them, just to give you a heads up, may say that they're willing to work with you once it's done, but at least you're making that initial point of contact to say, hey, it's in process. This is what I can do. I'd love to be able to help you guys out, and I can reach out to you once it's officially, gone through the process. So you're making that first touch. Yeah.
Perfect. I appreciate that, and thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, of course, not a problem.
Perfect. And then one more thing, Anna, do you suggest that I probably make little folders with my capability statement and maybe my resume, my Blue Line distribution resume talks about the background of my executive level experience that I have in my education and that sort of thing? Do you think that would be helpful or overkill?
So it may be a little bit overkill. The goal of going to those events is to really get those one-on-one meetings outside of that system. So it's good to, show up and have that information on hand. So maybe have a few packets made, that's good. But the goal really should be, if you have those connections and you guys are starting to have a good, conversation, let's say with a vendor, say to them, okay, great. So right after this event, let's see about scheduling a one-on-one meeting. And sometimes at the event, they'll actually have time for you to schedule those 15-minute one-on-ones because that's where you're gonna make more of a connection than sometimes just standing at the booth where there's a line of a bunch of people behind you. So you can always, give them that information and leave it with them. But the goal should be also just have your calendar with you, like on your phone, and say, okay, great, when could I contact you, tomorrow or the day after, and let's set up a time to talk in more detail or have a follow-up meeting.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Awesome. Thanks for calling in, Anna. And just keep calling in and talking through this stuff. That's why we have the Academy Live, and can't wait to hear your success stories.
You bet I will, and I can't wait to get my first contract.
Us either. Thanks, Anna. The difference between teaming and subcontracting is a really good question. Teaming agreements are when you have a actual specific agreement set forth between two different companies for a different prime and sub relationship. So basically, one person in the teaming agreement is the prime, one is the subcontractor. But you're creating a specific agreement to say that this relationship exists for this particular contract. So it's a single contract. Or it's for a certain period of time where that prime is going to call on that subcontractor for any contracts awarded within the time period. Depends on how you set it up. Versus a normal subcontracting relationship is just when you're hired on a case-by-case basis and you're subcontracting on someone's existing contract that they already have. So Teaming agreements are really great because, again, you're coming in with an existing relationship of who's going to be the head honcho and who's going to be coming in as support, versus a regular subcontractor is just when you are case-by-case basis helping out to support the person who has already been awarded the contract on any small tasks that they might need here and there. So for a subcontracting relationship, you do not need a lawyer. For a teaming agreement, you typically also do not need a lawyer unless you are taking that teaming agreement to the next level and then creating a joint venture. Once you start creating a joint venture, you need to get an attorney involved, because a joint venture is when you take two separate companies and they come together for a new entity. So you're basically creating a whole nother company while keeping the resources of company one and company two. So once you do that, you do need to get an attorney involved so they can actually go through the contract process of what company A is going to do and company B, versus a strictly just a teaming agreement of prime and subcontractor relationship. You are good to go. Unless you're an 8A vendor. If you're an 8A vendor, be sure to check with the SBA before you indulge in any teaming agreements.
Hi, Anna. It's Alexis again from Selkirk Products in Idaho.
Hey. Hi, Alexis. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So my question this week is we've won one contract and everything went well and everything, but we've seen other contracts that we would have loved to bid on. However, with our money still waiting to come back, we're trying to find a way to find a factoring company, someone to kind of help us with that up front and maybe take a small percentage in the end. But we're having a hard time. Do you have any recommendations on where to look or how to find a good factoring company that is used to working with government contractors?
Yeah, that's a great question. Did you just win this contract? Or is this one you had existing?
I actually won it maybe a couple weeks after I started. I think I just got lucky.
Oh my God. Well, congratulations, number one. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Is it a service contract, is that way, or is it more just a product delivery?
Yes.
Services?
It was a modification of vans from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive.
Okay. Cool. That's pretty easy. All right, so you're just waiting on the invoice to come through, so we need to get some financing in between. Okay, so when it comes to vetting the factory type of financing companies, one of the things you want to look at is the time period for the interest rate. So really check on that interest rate and make sure that it's not gonna bite you in the butt later. Some of them could have some really high ones in the upfront, or they could be low in the upfront and then high later on. Secondly, there are some contractors, even our clients, who have helped out small businesses through partnerships. That's why teaming arrangements also can be really great, because you could have like a teaming arrangement with someone that is really just there as a partner for financing. So you may want to look into also seeing if, and this is a good shout out, if anyone's listening right now at USFCR, if any of you are interested in basically being pretty much a lender over to Alexis, please let us know. We can get you in contact, because Alexis, we do have some clients that do that simply are just brokering, and they're just kind of being that cash flow person, taking a small percent and then, providing the cash flow. So we'll see if there's anyone listening that might be able to do that for you. But yeah, the biggest thing for me is just reviews and also checking on those interest rates. Okay, so Jan's question is, can you subcontract with a veteran-owned small business under the same NAICS code? So, Jan, you can subcontract anyone you like under a particular contract. If they're subcontracted, the federal government's going to look at your NAICS code, which should be, somewhat related to the bid that you're going after. But as far as the subcontractor you choose, you would want to make sure that they also have an NAICS code that's attached to the work, because they're going to be the ones performing it most likely, so they have to be tied to that exact form of work. But yeah, you're more than welcome to hire a subcontractor who's a service-disabled veteran for sure. Any subcontractors that you're going to hire, you're going to have to report on in the electronic subcontracting reporting system. And one of the things they ask for in there is Did you hire someone who has a particular set aside? And so they're gonna ask for those demographics anyway, so yeah, go right ahead. Just make sure you get a good teaming agreement out there.
All right, my name is Dakota, and I'm from Camp Leaf. And we sell like military equipment, like bags, rifle cases, stuff like that, uniforms. The main questions I have are about searching for the solicitations themselves. Like when I find one, I'm finding ones that are invitation for bid, request for proposal, and request for quotation. I know the differences, but I want to know what the difference in the process is, or if the process is basically the same.
Okay, a RFI is just a request for information. So when you have a request for information, the response is going to be a lot simpler. They're mostly looking for a capability statement. They're looking for a brief technical breakdown, just kind of showing that you understand the work that would be done. And then they also... What was that?
When you say technical statement, just that we kind of know what we're getting into and how we're going to do it?
Yeah, exactly. They just want to find out if you're a subject matter expert. That's what they're looking for you to prove. So if you know the lingo of, let's say they're looking for those military uniforms, if you already know all the different specs that need to be part of that, it's going to help you to show, hey, I'm an expert in this. I know what the uniforms are supposed to be. I know about the Buy America Act. I know that I have to get my materials from such and such. Those sort of nuggets of facts that kind of help you to step up in that lane. So that's the brief technical portion. And the third thing would be any relevant past performance testimonials, not so much the full past performance portfolio, but just like a brief testimonial showing that you've done work similar in the past. Because when you actually write the full proposal, that's where you do a lot more documentation of what was the name of the company, how much did it go for, scope of work, all of that.
Okay. And then for that one, do you submit it with the cover page and all that stuff as well, or no?
So with that one, the capabilities statement ends up acting as your cover page. So because the capability statement's going to have a brief overview of your entire company, it has all your corporate data, DUNS, CAGE, all of that information. So that ends up being a cover page.
Okay.
Sweet. And then the RFQ, that's just a request for quote. So a request for quote is simply a price proposal section. It depends also on what avenue, what website you found that solicitation on. If you found it on, if it's initially from, FBO and such, it's probably just a price proposal. They want a cover sheet and then a quote sent in. That's it. Other times, if it's on Unison, which is FedBid or FedConnect, or the DIBS board, they just want you to literally just type in a quote, send in a quote. Those are a little bit more simple. They're just type in a price and send it on over.
Okay, yeah, so depending on the website, one might be that you just do the cover sheet and the quote and send that to them, and the other one will be it'll be on the website itself.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's RFI, RFQ, and then RFP. RFP is request for proposal, so that's the full proposal that I just kind of talked about earlier. So David is asking, do you have to have a particular NAICS code on your SAM registration in order to bid on that solicitation? The answer is no. So despite what the popular belief is, you do not have to currently have the particular NAICS code for the contract you're pursuing in order to bid on it. You can bid on anything. The purpose of the NAICS codes being on your SAM registration is so that the government can get an overview of who you are as a company. But your company isn't limited to just your codes. That's why brokers exist. So you could have the code for security systems, but also go ahead and sell toothpaste if you have connections. It doesn't matter. There are times, though, when contracting officers won't be aware of this FAR regulation, and that happens. And if they ask you and say, can you kindly add this NAICS code to your SAM, that's fine. And that's why you have case managers here. So you can always then reach out to case management, they can add it to your SAM registration, and you'll be good to go. So great question, David. Okay, awesome. So your question, it's you see your NAICS code populate in different state opportunities and you want to know how you might be able to service some of those contracts, even if it's not in Tennessee?
That's right.
Okay, awesome. That's a great question. So when you see solicitations out there and they're not in your state, you are more than welcome to bid on it. So there's no restrictions as far as where you can bid. So you could be in Tennessee and bid on something for Massachusetts or Colorado and from the federal government. If you're on state level contracts, you do need to have, within your state. But for the federal government, there is no restriction. That is why they allow for example, subcontractors to be allowed and brokers. So let's say, for example, Leroy, you see a contract for legal services and it's in Georgia, okay, which is not that far, but let's say it's in Georgia. You have either two options. You can decide that you want to, if you are awarded the contract, to fly to Georgia and perform the contract, or maybe it's remote work. You never know, could be remote. Or you have the opportunity to find a subcontractor ahead of the contract who is located in Georgia that has the same capabilities that you do, who can perform that work, and then put them into your proposal as your subcontractor. And then you would basically sub out the work to them, and you would be in charge of the solicitation management and just making sure that they perform the work the way that they said they were going to perform it, kind of like a supervisor.
Okay, great. This is my third year I've been doing this here. Sometimes I look at the opportunity. I say, okay, are this going to be for me or not for me?
Yes.
That's the question that I asked, and now it's clarified. Now that I can, outserve the serve, I can go down, meet the company, and outserve it.
Yeah, you can out-service it. The thing with out-servicing and doing that subcontracting method is just to make sure that you outsource before you win the contract. So any subcontractors that you're going to have, you just want to identify them in the proposal that you send out, because the government wants to know who's going to be doing the work ahead of time. So make sure you just have those connections, ahead of the work instead of subbing it afterwards.
Okay, thank you so very much. And
I had two questions, actually.
Okay.
One is there anything that says like that we can't have more than one bid out at a time for the same thing? Like basically, if you bid on exactly the exact product that they're asking for, can you do that, but also do a second bid on something that's similar to what they're asking for if you get a better price?
As in like a multiple offers, like it's the same solicitation, but you're submitting multiple offers for different prices and similar objects? Yes.
Yeah. One for what they want and one that's similar.
So it depends on the solicitation. I was just going over one today actually in bid training for Anne, actually, who's on training right now. And there is a section in there where we were going through it was in the instructions to offer a section. They will put a stipulation that says multiple offers. So if you see that, just read that little blurb and it'll let you know if they accept multiple offers or if they do not. If they do, then you can submit as many quotes as you want for that same solicitation for equal or value objects. Or you can't if they say, just one offer per person. Caller 5, what is your name, your company, and your question? And Halloween costume.
This is Anna from Blue Line Distribution.
Hi, Anna.
How are you?
Great.
Good. So this is a general conversation, question rather. Would you suggest, since I am nervous, I'm just starting out obviously, and I'm waiting for all of my SAM registration and my cage code to come through before I put my bid proposal in and make a bid somewhere. Would it be of a benefit or recommendation if I hired somebody on your staff to help walk through the bid process with me and have the first couple done as more of a template?
Sure. Right now, we don't really have anyone on staff as far as proposal writing right now to kind of hire to write them for you. But we do have the bid training program, which is something that I actually run where we have those daily trainings. So it's kind of like what we're doing now, except for on a webinar basis. And so we have a topic of the day, and then we go through and break down proposals. So that I always think is really helpful for people, because if you're just starting out and you really want someone to look over the first few that you're doing, I recommend it. It's great. I mean, your acquisition specialist should be able to help you as well, depending on, again, like the level of, what you've kind of purchased at USFCR. But it's a really great thing to have. In the APP, you also have those templates you can use to also kind of get you started. We don't really have examples too much that we can share, because every solicitation, as you're going to find out, is completely different. So instead of having examples, we have templates created so that you kind of get the idea of what are the basic documents you're going to have to fill out in order to be compliant with the requirements for that bid. And bid training is a great place to do that, because if you say, hey, Anna, I have this solicitation number I'm looking at. I've never read this before. I just want to know, what do I need to put together? How do I read this, etc. And then during bid training, I'll basically break it down for you and look at the statement of work, tell you what the objectives are. I'll let you know how they're going to evaluate you based off of the other people, and also go through those requirements of what documents you have to put together to even respond. And then if you have something you've written, I can review it.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. I was watching Dan's tutorials, and they were really beneficial. So thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the end of my question.
Awesome. Well, and are you going to be anything for Halloween?
Plans for Halloween? Well, here in Peoria, Illinois, it's snowing, so hopefully none. But I do have 3 small children.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting for trick-or-treating. All right, so snowing over in Illinois. All right. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you, ma'am.
I put your name in the hat, and we got next caller. Yes.
Great, thank you.
What would be the next step if she wanted to sign up for bid training?
Oh, okay. David just wants to add, if you did want to sign up for bid training, what that next step would just be to go ahead and reach out to your acquisition specialist, and then they can go ahead and walk you through, getting signed up for that. And if any of you are looking to get some more information on proposal writing or bid training, again, call in and speak to one of our experts, and we'd be happy to let you know a little bit more about that process. That was some really great information, and it's going to lead pretty easily into next week's, where we're going to talk about the market research that you're going to do in the advanced procurement portal to not only find your opportunities within a particular agency, but also begin the bidding process. So I'm really excited, and if you haven't asked questions, be sure to type them in. We do monitor the chat at all times. So tune in next week, where we're going to be premiering this at 2 p.m. Eastern on Monday, and we'll be giving you some more more questions from you, and I don't know, I'm excited. See you next week on the Best of USFCR Academy Live.